we're a little different when it comes to physical therapy. We really kind of like to strip stuff down and get to the basics. So we're all pretty educated in here, personal trainers, I'm sure strength and conditioning coaches, a little bit of everything in here. So I kind of want to take you guys back to your basics and really kind of point out the basics, make it black and white so you can talk to clients, talk to whoever comes in to see you, and really apply some of the things that I do on a daily basis so that you can keep people from coming in to see me. So anyways, I've got my bachelor's in health and exercise science, sports medicine, played college baseball, really kind of coming out of high school, wanted to work with athletes. It's changed a little bit since I've graduated from that. Always kind of wanted to be a physical therapist. I had a pretty big injury in high school. Actually rehabbed with Dr. Rhett Polka, who Ryan hooked up with in Loveland, and that kind of got me rolling with the physical therapy thing. Went to CU and got my doctorate. Right out of school, got a job with, I thought it was my dream job. It was where I did my last residency at. It was a sports clinic. It was really cool. I was seeing about 30 patients a day, had 4 patients at a time. It was just a factory. Had a hard time with not being able to be one-on-one with somebody and really help them and kind of go through and meet the needs of each individual patient. So called Rhett back up and said, hey, I know you got something neat that you're doing up in Loveland, and I'd like to be a part of it. So here we are. We've gone through, we were in Centennial over by Dove Valley and outgrew it pretty quickly. Hooked up with a strength and conditioning coach, and now we've just moved into a big old 6,000 square foot facility, and we've got a 4,000 square foot gym, got half a dozen personal trainers that I work with, and we really work together to make sure the system works so that they're not screwing people up and the people that are coming to me are not as screwed up as they could be. And that's kind of how we do it. So it's a little bit about us, and I just kind of want to go around, since I don't really know anybody here except for Ryan, and get a feel for what we have so we can kind of talk about it. So we'll start here.
And I'm a personal trainer, and I also train here at Thurlow.
And I'm about to graduate from the National Personal Training Institute in Colorado.
I'm Sarah Lamord, and I'm the Pilates director at Paravita Fitness and Spa.
I'm Heather Ballin. I'm the fitness director at Purita.
Perfect.
I'm Todd Weber, and I have a PhD in bioenergetics and exercise science, and I'm also a registered dietitian. Right now, I teach part-time anatomy and physiology and nutrition, and I'm trying to kind of learn more about the fitness industry and the nutrition industry. Coming from academia is way different than actually working with people. The application side of it, I'm trying to get into that, and so I'm just trying to learn more from you guys, I guess. And how I can kind of break in and help out.
Cool. Back there.
I'm Jenny Neddick. I'm a running coach, and I work one-on-one and with small groups of runners, helping them improve their running form, become more efficient, and stay healthy, since a lot of runners end up getting injured. So I do a little bit of strength training with that as well.
Jen, I'm an entrepreneur, and I do a lot of yoga and deal with a lot of yoga injuries, so this is interesting for me.
No Seth, so
yeah. No more talking.
I'm Laura St. John. I own Pearl Street Fitness with my husband, Scott St. John. And our goal was to really design a people-driven workout experience where we take all the application of it all and fit in fitness, nutrition, group personal training, and really create one dynamic, fun experience.
Everybody knows Ryan, right?
I'm Ryan. I spent most of my 20s getting injured and learning lots about my body through trying to fix things.
Perfect.
My name is Perry, I'm a trainer right here at Pearl Street Fitness.
I'm Adrienne. I am a client here, and I also work with Pearl Street.
I'm Natalie, and I work at Huckleberry Roasters. I go to the river yoga, and I've been kind of sampling gym since I moved here. So, yeah.
Awesome. So nice to meet you all. I'm going to forget every one of your names, but that's all right. So cool. So we have a lot of education in here. We have a lot of fitness in here. We have a lot of things that I deal with on a daily basis. So I guess what I kind of want to I want you guys to get out of this is just something that you can take to your clients to help keep them off of this. okay? So what we're gonna talk about is the recipe for injury. So that's something we kind of came up with a long time ago. When you look at every injury that's out there, there are 4 things in common, okay? So the first thing is gravity. So can we control gravity? Is gravity something we can mess with? Not really, okay? So gravity is one of those things you look at, it's with every injury, but we can't control it. The next one is transverse plane movement. So you guys are all familiar with transverse plane movement, a lot of rotation, right? Okay, so when we're working out, when we're running, when an injury occurs, it's usually because that joint has failed in that transverse plane. Okay, a lot of times, and I see it a lot with bad trainers, is they only train their clients in one plane of motion. So when it ends up happening, they come into me, I do a functional movement assessment, they can't do any other plane of motion. They're super strong in this way. Runners are actually one of my favorites to work with because most runners that come in to see me haven't touched a weight in 15 years. So you get them to go side to side and they have no idea what to do. It's great. So transverse plane, can we control transverse plane movement? Can we stop it from completely happening? We cannot. So that's the second thing that's a part of the recipe for injury. The third is end range movement. Okay, everybody's probably pulled something or broken something or sprained something in here. Okay, that joint was taken to end range. So can we control that? Is that a part of how we move? Okay, end range is something that's going to happen. You have to be able to get out of end range to prevent from being injured. Okay, the fourth one, which is what I'm going to get you guys moving here in a second, but the fourth one is neuromuscular inhibition. So any idea, you guys probably know what that is, but throw something out there. What do you guys, if you were to define neuromuscular inhibition, what would you say? Throw something at me. Break them down. Neuromuscular. Okay, so it's a signaling, right? So it's a neuro thing. So I treat every patient as a neuro patient. Okay, so nerve, synapses at the muscle, tells the muscle to fire. Okay, if that synapse isn't very good, what happens? End range is bad. Transverse plane happens way too much, and you can't really get in and out of, you can't really fight gravity as well. Okay, so 3 of those 4 things we can't control, but neuromuscular inhibition is something that you guys as fitness professionals can. So I want to grab somebody real quick, and we're going to demonstrate neuromuscular inhibition. So who wants to come on up onto the table? Anybody? Bring an old person up. All right, so what are some things that you do before you get a client out to go work out?
I do stretching.
Okay.
I do SMR.
Okay.
Static stretching.
Okay.
Some PNF.
Okay.
Stretching.
Okay, so there's some things in there that I want to touch on, okay? So mostly stretching, because stretching is the bane of my existence. It causes people to come in to see me. And I know why you do it, I know why I used to do it, but I know that there's better ways to get that range of motion that you want. So let's go old school quad stretch. Everybody likes that one, right? Okay, so I'm gonna have you go on your back. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna just kind of test the facilitation of the quad. You're gonna tell me what it feels like, and then I'm gonna let you stretch however you want to stretch that quad, and then we'll retest it and see what happens, okay? So we'll test this one since you can see. So hold that leg up in the air, and then don't let me press you down. So push up to the ceiling. Good, so that's a pass. That feels pretty strong. It's working when it should. There's not really any neuromuscular inhibition to the rectus femoris there. So stand on up and stretch that quad out for me. How long do you usually stretch for?
30 seconds.
30 seconds, okay.
At least.
Okay. So why do you guys, is a lot of everybody else in here do a lot of stretching, stretch your clients, things like that? See some head shaking, no, thank you. But when people do stretch, why do you do it?
Why do I do it?
Why do you
Because
stretch?
Get those muscle spindles activated.
I like that word, muscle spindles. We're gonna talk about that. Okay, so go ahead and go on your back. So you feel a pretty good stretch there? Okay, I might make you do it differently because that's not a huge rec fem stretch, but that's okay. Don't let me press you down, hold it up, so push up. Okay, what happened? Versus push up, hold tight, hold tight, hold tight. Okay, so muscle spindles. I wasn't even gonna talk about that, but that's my favorite part of what I do. So we work on muscle spindles, that's what we do. So that was a little bit shakier the second time, right? So you took that muscle spindle and you lengthened it. So a muscle spindle is a mechanical sensor. That's what I'm gonna press on, and we're gonna wake that back up. So the cool part is you guys can do that by using those functional active warm-ups. So making those mechanical receptors more sensitive. Now, if you've got a muscle that you just stretched and caused neuromuscular inhibition, what happens to those other parts of the recipe for injury? They become a little more prominent. So we're gonna go through some active warm-ups here in a second, and that's gonna help kind of increase that neuromuscular sensitivity, touch on the muscle spindles a little bit, keep people from coming to see me. So push up to the ceiling, hold tight. Okay, what happened? Made that neuromuscular junction more sensitive. Okay, so we're gonna do a quick activity. You can go ahead and stand up. I want everybody to stand up real quick. And I'm just gonna have everybody touch their toes. Nice and bright and early, okay? So I'm hearing some moaning, some groaning. Okay, come on back up. Okay, so who here felt lower back tightness? Okay, how about the old hamstring tightness? There we go, okay. So everybody sit back down on your fit balls. If you don't have one, I'll show you how to do it on the table without one. And how about the term reciprocal inhibition? Dig deep into your like 9th grade physiology, okay?
Your agonist and your antagonist.
Bingo, yep, okay. So if you've got a tight hamstring, okay, we're gonna call that the antagonist. What would be the agonist? What's that? Quads. With touching your toes, sorry. So if you're touching your toes, what would be the agonist? Think of where the hamstrings attach at the hip. I'm sorry? Lower back. So lower back's an extender, and hamstrings are an extender. So hip flexors would be one. And core. So you guys love the core, right? Everybody wants to work the core. Okay, so reciprocal inhibition, antagonist and agonist. If we can make this more sensitive, it will actually reciprocally inhibit the hamstrings. So if you have a client with super tight hamstrings, I can get you to loosen them up without even stretching them. But it's gonna stay that way instead of forcing it, and you're not gonna get that neuromuscular inhibition, so you're not gonna pop a hamstring, okay? So real quick, go grab that ball. We're gonna do a quick activity. We're gonna get a small muscle in the core called the pyramidalis, and this one goes out to every single patient that comes through my door with back pain, any kind of posterior chain pain. So you're gonna go arms across your chest. You're gonna go down to the opposite thigh, and if you're standing up, you can do it just sitting on the floor like this. And you're gonna go down to the opposite thigh. Once you get down there, squeeze your lower abs and count to 5. So just draw your belly button back towards your spine. And it's opposite, sorry, so elbow to opposite knee. So, yep, you go across, yep. And then come all the way back up. You're gonna go down to the opposite thigh and then squeeze for 5 seconds. And then come all the way back up, and then go down to the middle for 5 seconds. Okay, so I'm gonna have you guys repeat each one of those 5 times. And we'll talk a little bit about what that's doing. So what you're doing is you're bringing everything down. You're canceling out all those big abdominal muscles by not squeezing until your elbow hits the thigh. And we're sensitizing those lower abdominals to cause that reciprocal inhibition to the hamstrings. So in a second here, I'll get you guys up and moving, but we're gonna go through just some activities that I want you guys to play around with your clients. And it doesn't feel like you're doing much, but we'll see how you feel when you stand up. And if it doesn't work when you stand up, I'll come poke on you and we'll turn it back on. But, you know, by and large, you guys are, you know, I see it all the time. You know, I work with a bunch of running stores. I work with a ton of personal trainers. You guys are the front line for stuff. Nobody knows about physical therapy unless you have broken something. A lot of people don't know that you can just come to us. So people come to you and they want to get fixed. So I want to have a tool in your guys' toolboxes to help out with that. So we'll call that 5. That should be enough. And then everybody stand back up and touch your toes. And hopefully nobody made me look bad, and you should feel a little bit more movement after that. And if you didn't, there's some other things going on. So by and large, what do we feel? Looser? Okay. So you just use your fundamental anatomy physiology and you applied it to your body. So that's the biggest problem with what I see is everybody wants to treat symptoms. somebody comes in, they've got a tight IT band, they want to roll it. They've got tight quads, they want to stretch it. They've got a tight lower back, they want to roll it out. They want to, I used to do adjustments my first year out of PT school. I thought it was the coolest thing that I could do, what a chiropractor could do, and put them out of business. And what it came down to is that doesn't relate to our physiology. So you guys just always break down your physiology, and it won't steer you wrong. So now I want to go through some just active warm-ups you may or may not have seen. If you haven't seen them, great. If you have seen them, I can show you how to make them tougher. We got a nice stretch of runway here, so I'm freezing, so let's use it. So what I'm going to do is we could probably go 2 deep, and we're just going to go down that way. And Ryan, you have to let me know if any of these have changed over the years. So we'll get 2 lines, and we'll go back here, and we'll just go through some stuff, okay? The nice part is so every time you come in, so at our gym, it's pretty cool because I've made all the strength and conditioning coaches. We've kind of swapped ideas, and I've learned a ton from them, and they've learned a ton from me. And I look out my little window, and I see them doing all my active warm-ups, and it just makes me feel good. So the first one we're going to do is we're going to touch on that transverse plane. So we're going to really work on warming up in that transverse plane. And this one's almost aplanar, so it's multiple planes of motion. So it's a walking lunge with a twist. You just go through, just like that. So real quick, everybody stand on one leg and do 3 squats. And then stand on the other leg, do 3 squats. So this is a part of our screen that we use, and we look for all kinds of things at the hip, knee, foot, see what's going on. So everybody, let's go down about 3/4 of the way doing that lunge twist, and then come back doing the lunge twist. I want you to do your one-legged squat again and tell me what you feel, okay? So this is kind of a house favorite. And you always twist over the forward leg. So twist that way. Yep. So who's shaky? A little shaky? Okay. That's not coffee back there, right?
No.
So you're working on transverse plane, you're working on end range, and you're fighting gravity. So you're kind of working with that recipe for injury. You can't prevent it, but you can sure as heck get better at it.
Are we walking back or lunging?
Lunging back. So I see a lot of people shaking. So it's kind of cool because if you look at the more traditional way of how people used to kind of warm everybody up, and there's a lot of studies out there on what static stretching and foam rolling can do to decrease overall power output and muscle firing and things like that. And it's really kind of become this whole active warm-up thing that we've been doing for years. But you do stuff like this, and your clients will like it. And more than likely, you won't have to come and see me. So, all right, so now everybody stand on that one leg again and do 3 short squats. And it might not be better. You can't just throw an exercise all the time at something and fix it. And then try the other side. And how's everybody's stability feel? Any different at all? It's okay if it doesn't. But so what you're doing is you're using that aplanar motion to get rid of that neuromuscular inhibition. You're sensitizing the neuromuscular junction. Okay. So with that, I guess I kind of want to talk to you guys. You guys have probably all seen a ton of injuries, and I'm here to kind of answer some questions and see what's all out there and what you guys have tried, what's worked, what hasn't worked, and kind of go from there. So anything prominent? Knees, okay. What kind of knee stuff? Just like general knee pain, wear and tear?
Yeah, specifically if you're a runner.
Okay.
Yeah, like IT and
Okay.
tendonitis are probably like the two most common.
Okay. Okay. What type of stuff have you guys tried? What's worked, what hasn't worked for that?
Like I always try hips.
Perfect, yeah.
So even just like the single leg squats that we're doing.
Yeah, definitely.
It's like repetition.
Okay, perfect.
Clients, side leg lifts.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I would say the most important thing is that you make it functional. So if you have a runner, you got to make it functional. You got to make it relate to what they do. You know, when that stuff doesn't work, that's usually when people seek, you know, out a physical therapist or something like that. The reason why it doesn't work is because all those exercises you try, like let's say a clamshell. So you guys all familiar with the clamshell? It's the beach pose one. You go like that. Can you specifically isolate one solitary problem with that? You know.
Well, a lot of times people don't feel it if they're not in the right position.
Sure.
Making sure they're stacking their hips.
Sure.
So when you're not the person doing it, it's harder to get them. Like they don't necessarily. I guess what I've found is a lot of people aren't aware of what muscles they should be using, so you can explain it.
Right.
But until they feel it, they don't know if they're using the right one.
Right.
When you're not the person feeling it, it's hard to tell if they're. Like I always try to get people to explain where they're feeling it.
Yeah. It's amazing when some people say it too, right?
Yeah. You're like, how are you getting that?
Yeah.
Feel there.
Yeah. So I think by and large, when that stuff doesn't work, it's because no matter what exercise you use, you can't kind of isolate one specific muscle that's failing. So, you know, when I watch somebody do a one-legged squat and I see the hip rotate in and kind of pop out, then yeah, we all know that it's weak out through here. But what aspect of that lateral hip is weak? Everybody always wants to blame the glute med, but be surprised at how often it's not actually the glute med. So you have a muscle that's inhibited neuromuscularly. So you know, using aplanar movement will actually get you probably a little bit further than just doing a single isometric or something like that. If it doesn't work, you know, the muscle needs to be plugged in. I mean, that's kind of what it comes down to, and it's not a pitch from me or anything like that. It's just, it is what it is. That's your physiology. You need to get those muscle spindles to, you know, give that afferent and efferent signal so that they will relay that message to the neuromuscular, you know, junctions. So, you know, try throwing out some more aplanar motion. For knees, one of my favorite one is a grapevine lunge, or a crossover lunge, however you want to call it. That works for IT bands, it works for patellofemoral pain, it really works for patellotendinitis. It looks a little something like this. You probably have seen it before where you go down and then come up and then across. And you just go like 15 feet down, 15 feet back. But it'll kind of sensitize that lateral hip. So, and I've got videos too of all this stuff. You guys can steal them. They're on YouTube. Just type in 180 physical therapy, and there's a ton of active warm-up videos, facilitation videos, stuff like that. So, so knees are one. How about some other stuff?
Rotator cuff or problems with yoga.
Okay. A lot of shoulder stuff. So, mobility, that's kind of a fun word, everybody. It's like a hot button right now, especially with CrossFit and stuff like that. Everybody wants mobility. Okay, so what would you guys define mobility as? Ability to move, right? Okay, so mobility, it's a good thing, right? Yoga, I see a lot of yoga. I see a lot of people do yoga wrong. I don't know enough about yoga, but the people that come to see me that have done yoga, by and large, are just ripping their joints to end range, and they're trying to force all the mobility in the world. Okay, so we made up a word called mostrability. Okay, so it's combining mobility, strength, and stability and kind of simultaneously working on them. So if you've got somebody who has poor mobility at the shoulder, you have to increase the strength and stability along with the mobility so that they don't have those rotator cuff problems. Some stuff you can try and do is, you know, just as how you would do active warm-up before you go for a run or before you throw some weights around. You can do active warm-up with yoga too, and it's beyond just the old school arm circles and things like that. It can be anything like arm care with using bands or just using some isometrics. So a lot of people have lower trap weakness. You'll find that in a ton of people, I'm sure. All I do is I use a functional isometric and just make people do a capital Y, count to 5. So you notice the 5-second rule that we've talked about a couple times. So all the good research is saying that if you do a 5-second hold, that really increases that neuromuscular firing. So arm care. There's a lot of stuff out there for arm care. I usually don't. The reason being is because it comes back to the functional thing. A, people do it less when you tell them to go stand up against a wall, but B, you don't walk around with a wall on your back all day. So I just tell people, hey, get up there, squeeze together, count to 5, come back down, do 5 repetitions of it. Doesn't mean you can't, but I try to relate it more to day-to-day movement. So
If they can't get there, you just have them go as far as they can.
So yeah, go as far as they can. If they can't get there, then I get to poke around on stuff. Yeah. So there's probably a lot more at play there than just the lower trap. So it's all about kind of finding what's working, what's not working. Just deduce that by watching people move. So I can show you more stuff, but I don't have other bands or anything around here. I don't know. Okay. So what a lot of people like to do. This is going to look bad. This is way too strong for me. I'll have you hold that. So the old school thought with rotator cuff stuff, you probably have seen like a lot of this garbage. Okay. Do we walk around like this all day? Okay. So I never use that. So if you have somebody with shoulder problems with yoga, open them up a little bit. Get them to use the entire posterior rotator cuff. I mean, that's weight. I'm going to pull myself on the floor. So, do a full arc of motion. Get the entire posterior rotator cuff to fire. Have them do 12 repetitions of that before they come to yoga, or right when they get there, have them hop on that. Get all that stuff to open them up. Have them, turn around and do the other side, and instead of doing this stuff where it only hits one muscle, get everything involved that they're going to use in, whatever they're doing for the day. So, and it's something quick and easy. I mean, stuff like this you can get at Dick's for $10. Have them throw them in their bag. If you got somebody who's always having rotator cuff pain, it's something they can use. So, cool. Anything else? Kind of wrap it.
For hips specifically, so we talked about hip weakness.
Mm-hmm.
I guess like maybe the psoas or something that's
Yeah.
nice and tight and really hard to get to.
Okay. So always think. So never look at just a symptom. Look at the root cause of the symptom. So psoas is tight. It's a flexor. Reciprocal inhibition says what's going to be weak. Any kind of extensor. Try and isolate your extensors. I guarantee you start thinking backwards on some stuff. The things you're always fighting that are tight, you'll be able to loosen them up by thinking backwards and say, what's opposing? What's the antagonist muscle? And if that doesn't work, what's the synergist muscle? What's the helper muscle that's not doing its job? Try and isolate those a little bit, and a lot of that tightness will go away. If you're constantly kind of doing a release on something or trying to get somebody to stretch something, you're only going to get so far. It's going to keep coming back because you're not fixing the root cause. So, cool. All right, Ryan gave me one of these, so.
Well,
Yeah.
kind of written questions almost. Maybe at the same time, do you guys have questions for either Nick or Seth?
Cool. Yeah, and I mean, I'll if you guys want to grab my info from Ryan, if you guys have any questions, I mean, I love kind of working with the fitness community. So, like I said, you guys are the front line. You guys are the ones that people come to first because you see them way more than I do, and they're going to come to you first and say, hey, I've got this that's going on. How do I fix it? And I want you to have a tool in your toolbox that you can kind of use to get it going. So, cool. All right. Thank you.